Hello, Grand Strand. Welcome back to Talking About Food. This is Richard Florsack, the private chef to the stars. This is the only food commentary show on the Grand Strand that we talk specifically about restaurants, food trucks, festivals, farmers markets. We talk about food, folks. That's what we do here. That's what I love doing. I like to interview local chefs, local food business owners, and please remember, contrary to a restaurant chef, I cooked in a home, just like most of you. I always say the only difference between you, the home cook, and me, the private chef, was I got paid for what I did. So always remember that you are your family's private chef. And from time to time, I'm sure you've heard some of them on the show, some of my celebrity friends, and whether celebrity or not, the topic will always be food. We don't talk politics here. Put your politics aside for an hour, forget about your job, and let's do what I like doing best, and that is talking about food, because nothing brings people together like great food. I have in the studio with me a gentleman by the name of Mike Hensley. He owns Project Smashburger food truck, and I can't wait to talk to him about this. I'm a burger fanatic, so I'm going to be picking his brain. Mike, welcome to Talking About Food.
Yeah, great. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I want to know how you got started. I want to know about the food truck world, but I want to know about the burger because it really has become, you have to be a scientist these days to figure out what's in a burger. And I will, I'm comfortable in my own skin as a chef. I can debone a whole pig for proper Italian porchetta. I can also do, winter melon soup with Chinese conpoy, which is a dried Chinese scallop, for those of you who don't know. But I can't make a burger. I can't make a burger to save my life. Tell the audience first, what is the difference of a, quote, smash burger?
Yeah, so the difference is we literally take it's called a burger press. Once the meatballs or the pucks are put on the griddle, I press them down flat. It gives you a really nice kind of lacy, crispy edge when the fat starts to melt out of it a little bit.
Right. What is the press? Explain that to my 2 million listeners.
Yeah, it's a round disc about 6 inches with a handle on it.
And what's it made out of?
Stainless steel.
So it's heavy?
Yeah, I've got one aluminum, one stainless steel. No, they're not heavy per se, but you have to put some force on it.
And when you say a puck, you mean the shape of the ground beef before you press it?
That's right. So I buy the ground beef in bulk, and then I have a kind of a manual machine that puts it into a little 2.5 ounce hockey puck shape.
Right. Yeah. And how is it actually cooked? On what? How do you cook that?
On a flat top griddle.
Flat top griddle. So my assumption is the flat top is really hot. You put this, what you call a puck of ground beef, and you smash it down with this press. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it creates, you were saying, like a crispy edge?
Yeah. Yeah. So as the fat starts to melt out of it, it almost deep fries in its own fat around the edges.
Right.
Flip it over, put some cheese on it, stack them together, and it all just kind of melts together, the 2 layers of meat and cheese.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 9:00 in the morning and already I want one. I was at a burger place recently that gave this whole breakdown to the percentages of types of meat. There's this much brisket and this much something else. And I may shock some of the listeners, but I don't care. I really just care about the result. There was a place there still is, in Los Angeles. It's a small chain called Fat Burger. My favorite burger in Los Angeles. As a matter of fact, I used to get, this is embarrassing, I used to get their giant one. It was called the Double King with egg. It had 2 giant patties with a fried egg in between. Anyway, my point to this is I have no idea what was in that beef, but it was great.
Right.
So do you have a special concoction?
I don't. Back home years ago when
Where's back home?
Asheville, North Carolina. We've been in Horry County 3.5 years. So June will be 4 years. But back home, when I started kind of seeing these burgers popping up on some YouTube channels and stuff, I was like, that looks interesting. I had a Blackstone. I didn't want to try that. Local butcher shop I would, buy some stuff from. He had a brisket burger. It was literally the fatty part of a brisket ground into burger. It made delicious, really big, like a steak burger. I would kind of call a steakhouse kind of burger. But when I started doing the smash burgers with it, It was no difference. So I just buy an 80/20 from Beach Meats.
Wow. So you had, what a lot of people a lot of burger aficionados would call one of the cuts of beef that they believe are best for a burger, but you said it was the same. You're getting the same results, same flavor.
With the smash burgers, yes.
Yeah.
Now, if I was making a thicker burger, I was going to grill over charcoal, that sort of stuff. They were delicious. You couldn't beat them.
Yeah.
But doing it, obviously it's evolved over the years until we got the food truck up and running. But
Right.
I just couldn't tell that much of a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And certainly saved a bit of money at the same time.
For sure.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm sure you're like me. If the flavor was that much better, you'd spend a little more on it. Is there anything you do to the preparation of the ground beef first? Any seasoning that you just put on it? So
the seasoning goes on after I press it. I season that side of the meat.
Or can you tell us with what?
It's just it's a seasoning mixture. It's kind of a seasoning salt that I buy, and then I add additional salt and pepper, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and you've obviously tested that over time to make sure that ratio of salt pepper is what you need.
Yeah, and I use the same seasoning on the French fries as well. That way, it kind of all has a little bit of that similar profile.
Right.
To it.
I want to ask you about that in a second, but I just want to finish this up. So you put it on this hot griddle, you press it down. Do you leave that press on top of it? Like how does it manage to get that beautiful crispy edge on it?
That's once the fat is melting out of the burger, the grind. Like I said, almost deep fries in it, but I don't leave the press on it. I may have, depending on how many burgers I'm doing, 90% of them are going to be double cheeseburgers. So, there could be, 8 to 12, patties on the grill at one time. So I just go through, I'll press them all, season them all, and then by the time I'm done with that, I'm ready to start flipping.
Yeah.
So I don't leave the press on it because then it would almost steam and get a little mushy.
Right.
And we don't want that.
Yeah. So you flip it over. Before you flip it, has it already formed that beautiful crust on it? Yeah.
Yes, sir. And it's pretty well, it's done at that point.
How many burgers have you had going at one time? What's like the most?
The most, a couple weeks ago, we done a corporate lunch. Done them a little bit differently. We just gave everybody just double cheeseburgers, let them top them themselves for the speed factor. But we would have probably 10 to 12 burgers on the griddle. I've got a 48-inch flat top.
Yeah.
So, it would be loaded up. 12 burgers is 24 patties.
Yeah.
We were just as fast as we could cook them.
And you said this time you let them add the toppings. So typically you're going to add the toppings depending on what is ordered. Is that how it works?
That's correct. We got, depending on where we're at and which menu we use, we have 3 or 4 versions of the burger based on toppings.
Mm-hmm. Give the listeners some examples of some of the toppings.
Yeah. So our most popular seller is the original.
Which is
it's got the 2 patties, 2 slices of white American cheese, my burger sauce that we came up with, pickles, and grilled onions.
Oh,
and we only use a Martin's potato roll, and we toast all the rolls on the grill as well.
Oh, wow. That's my favorite. Especially when I go to a burger place for the first time. It drives me nuts. I'll see like influencers talk about, they visited some popular burger place and they show a picture of the burger and it's a mile high. It's got bacon, mushroom, you name it, it's on there. And I think, how do you taste the burger? So your original one sounds the best to me. What's in the burger sauce that you talked about?
So the burger sauce is a mayo, ketchup, mustard base.
That's interesting.
And then just some various seasonings. Actually got some of the same seasoning that I put on the burgers. It's got little insider tip. It's got a little bit of the brine in it from my pickled jalapenos that I make myself.
Yeah.
Kind of gives it a little tang, but it does not have any relish or pickles.
Oh,
mainly because I hate relish and pickles. So
that's me. It's me. I never enjoyed making things that I wasn't interested in eating myself. I hadn't planned on talking about this, but tell the listeners a little something about your French fries, because I know there are people that swear by French fries almost more than the burger itself. So is there anything special about them? Doesn't bother me if I'm going to a burger place and their French fries that accompany the burger are so, I could care less if the burger's great. So
yeah, I would say the same thing. we wanted our burgers to be the star. It's Project Smashburger, not Project French fries.
Yeah.
Now we do buy, it's a frozen product, but it's basically a 3H fry, but it has a clear potato starch on it. So, but that potato starch, they get super crispy when you deep fry them, and they hold up well we got 2 different versions of a loaded fry that we do sometimes, like a chili cheese, or we have one that has pimento cheese. So they hold up really well under that because that extra starch coating lets them get really crispy.
Yeah. Wow.
And they're really good, but again, I wasn't trying to make the French fries the star.
Right. So if you're giving me a lesson here, it's 80-20 on a skillet. Smash it down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming your skillet is real hot.
Not really.
High heat or no?
I mean, like
I'm sorry to interrupt. How long does it take to cook a burger?
Yeah, those patties cook in 3 or 4 minutes.
And you still get that beautiful crisp.
Because they're so thin.
Yeah.
Yeah. My griddle's actually not that hot. I turned it down some to try to slow it down just a little because the fries take a little bit longer. So that way I don't have burgers waiting on fries. They're still a little bit faster, but we turned it down. It actually only runs at 300, 325.
Yeah.
You know, I can do it faster, but they cook so fast. You could almost only do a burger 2 at a time because they cook so fast.
So I can take one of these pucks at home on a Blackstone, we'll say, and salt, pepper, and smash it down, and I've got a smash burger.
That's right.
Oh,
yeah,
I'm
I'm
excited about that.
I mean, I just started doing the pucks probably a couple months ago. Before that, I was making meatballs. You just hand weighing every one of them, rolling 2.5 ounce meatballs, and started. Right. The end result is exactly the same. Just the puck is a much faster portioning because I have a machine that helps as well.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, that says that you're getting busy and successful, and that's what we want. Okay. So back to the beginning. How did you get started? Do you have any formal training?
No, sir.
Okay. So how did you get started? Tell my 2 million listeners.
So my very first job.
There are 2 million listeners. They just don't listen to this show.
I got you. Hey, there's potential, right? It's growth.
That's right.
Now, my first job, 35 years ago, was in the food business, Orion Steakhouse. I needed a job. They were hiring. Worked there about 3 years, but the last 2 years of that I was in the kitchen and just loved it. Learned to work the grill, deep fryer. And me and my buddies, we just had so much fun in there. And that kind of really sparked the interest in just cooking in and of itself.
Right.
Then I, spent my whole working career in collision repair. A few years ago back home, started having a dream. Hey, I may want to do a food truck, but it just wasn't the right time.
What was it about your experience that you were gaining that you said to yourself, food truck?
Really, there was one particular truck back home. It was called Farm Defender. In Asheville, farm to table is a really popular kind of concept. Well, he was Farm Defender because of food truck. He made the best pimento cheese smash burger you would ever get in your life. Really? It was so good. And so I would kind of follow him around town and it just always seemed like, I was like, those guys look like they're having a blast in there, And then too, there's the startup cost. It's not inexpensive, but it is more budget friendly than a brick and mortar. So that's part of it as well.
Yeah.
A little more freedoms in schedule, that sort of stuff. So
yeah. No, it's makes perfect sense to me. I saw on your Facebook post last week that you were in 3 different locations last week or this week. I can't remember.
That would have been last week. Yeah, this week's schedule she'll put out today.
Okay. And how many different locations this week?
This week we will have 5.
5 locations. How many hours a week do you have to work to achieve that?
Oh, man. This week with the 5, because like Friday is a double. We're doing a lunch and a dinner, 2 different spots. Saturday. Oh yeah, this week will be a 60-hour week at best.
60 hours. Yeah.
So it's a lot more work than what most people are going to think a food truck is. They think you show up, you cook a little food, you go home.
And they think you prep everything inside the truck, but you have a commissary kitchen, right?
That's correct. Yes.
And you learned that part of it when? Did you know that before you were looking for a food truck?
That would be necessary?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
In part of our research. Once we were like, okay, hey, we're going to do this, started looking at local guidelines, all those things and that sort of stuff.
Can you tell the listeners, you said this off air about listening to a podcast that educates people wanting to start that business. Do you remember the name of it by any chance?
Yeah, it's simply called Food Truck Training.
Food Truck Training Podcast.
There's a podcast, there's a private Facebook group, and he's wrote several books. The first one is really good. It's simply called Food Truck 101.
Yeah.
He starts you through step one, set up your find your name,
Right.
set up your LLC, all the way through pricing your menu, shopping your menu, marketing. I mean, he really walks you through
And
step by
you
step.
don't know this person personally.
No, sir. He's based out of Florida somewhere.
Yeah, so it's not something that they're paying you to say that. And the reason why I wanted you to talk about that was because food truck popularity is growing here.
Mm-hmm.
I've said a number of times that there's been a few food trends that have started here that, started like 10 or 15 years ago in Los Angeles. So I've seen it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And if the city permits, this business is going to explode. And I think it's good for the community.
Yeah, this area is pretty tough. Georgetown County is not as strict as Horry County, but there's a lot of local guidelines and permits and things that you have to follow, and it can seem challenging and overwhelming, but we learn really quickly if we give them what they ask for, they'll typically give us what we need and they leave us alone.
Well, I'll tell you something. You probably don't know this, but you've got. Even though it's a bit difficult for you right now as a food truck owner in certain situations, you've got it a lot easier than a big city. Because I'll tell you, the red tape that you have to go. I had a business I was thinking about starting here, so I had to deal with DHEC here. I couldn't believe that they actually called me back. I left a message, and the guy called me back. We were on the phone. He gave me so much information. He was doing research on the phone while he's talking to me and emailing it to me.
Yeah, DHEC they were super helpful with me. When we started getting going and talking to people and talking to other food trucks, hey, what's it take, all these things. You start hearing horror stories, and we're like, man, what are we getting ourselves into? But from day one, I could send an email, make a phone call. If they didn't answer, they would call back. They would take the time to research my question before they call me back, like if I left it on the voicemail. So DHEC around here has been nothing but good to us.
Yeah.
Any information I needed, they gave me that, and really, they really worked with us instead of against us. So I don't have anything but good to say.
I really, really got the impression that they want to see people succeed. Complete opposite of what I dealt with 3,000 miles away from here. Do you get pushback from brick and mortar restaurants? They don't want you in the area.
So I've not had any pushback directly to me. Now, part of every municipality guidelines, even the county within Horry County, is we have to be X amount of feet away from the main entrance of a brick and mortar. I don't agree with it, but we play by the rules. So that could determine if a location will get permitted or not.
Yeah.
I think we're getting a little bit of pushback on some permitting we're working on within downtown. Probably going to get denied. But I think
why do you feel that way?
I think behind the scenes it's probably coming from some brick and mortars.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm not privy to all this conversation, so I don't know 100%. But we're finding some workarounds for it, so we're going to be fine. It's just an opportunity we had that felt like would be a good one, but it's probably not going to go through.
Yeah, I disagree with brick and mortar's perception of that. I just think the competition is good. If a food truck is bringing a number of people to a certain area, I think it can help the brick and mortars.
Yeah, and they always talk about where they're taking our business, all these things. And I'm like you, I think competition is good. And the way I see it is if someone starts another Smashburger truck and they're rave reviews and they're taking my customers, that's my problem, not his.
Yeah.
I need to make a better burger.
There you go.
So if a brick and mortar might get mad of like, hey, we don't want him in town because we sell burgers. Well, let's let the customer choose.
Yeah.
But they have plenty of advantages out of. They have restrooms. They can sell them a beer. All these things.
Yeah.
Plenty of things that I don't have. If it's raining, they can still go in and sit down.
Right.
If it's raining, I might as well not even open
And
the window.
they might not. They might decide not to have the Smashburger while they're waiting in line, and they turn around and look, and there's some wood-fired pizzeria, and they say, "Hey, let's go get
a pizza."
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Again, I think competition is healthy, and at the end of the day, this is a free market economy, right? We can start a business to provide and pursue those things. And
of course, that's why when a McDonald's opens on one corner, a Burger King opens on the opposite corner. I was reading on your Facebook page something about the quad. Can you explain what I've heard that term mentioned a number of times? If you can explain to the listeners about the quad.
Yeah, the quad is a really nice. It's a new beer garden down in Pawleys Island. Really cool spot. Once the weather gets a little warmer, where they can have all the doors open, so it's kind of there's one area that's just got like a bar and picnic tables you can set at inside, a game room with pool tables, and they bring in, local food trucks to serve food because they don't have food. They work with a lot of the local breweries for a lot of their beer. Really just a cool spot to hang out. They got cornhole boards set up, grassy area kids can play in. Really nice atmosphere.
And obviously it's okay with the city because you're doing it here. That must be a great setup for people like yourself in the business of food trucks. How do you get to be one of the food trucks there? How many food trucks can the quad hold?
Oh, she could hold down there. They could have a lot. I mean, they could do a food truck Saturday or food truck Friday and have 6 or 8 and have plenty of room. I know they're currently working with the county on being able to have more than one at a time. Right now, they're limiting them to just one.
So if you're in the quad, it's just you.
For now, yes. Yeah,
I don't like that.
Yeah, when it gets warm, if they can get it worked out with the county where they could have multiple, it would be fantastic, and that's just going to draw more people.
Of course,
I mean, if you could get, say, us and Black Cat Kitchen per se, two completely different concepts. We love her food. We follow her around, right?
Yeah.
So Josie is great.
Ask, she's been on.
Yeah, Josie is great. The two completely different concepts. That way, hey, if one spouse wants this and another wants a burger, they could get it. And you're going to draw more people with 2 different trucks there.
Yeah, I was saying, I don't know if it was to one of the food commentators that I had on or one of the food truck owners, because we also had Meredith Herman on of the Nosh Pit. But I was talking about a show. I'm going to have to look it up. There was a food show on one of the networks that I somehow started watching. Anyway, it was this gentleman. He owned this piece of property, and there were 3 food trucks, and they voted on the food trucks each week. And the third one that was voted out allowed another food truck to come in. And I thought, what a great idea. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a competition. Mm-hmm. If there was a piece of property, that somebody could set up that said that they can all just sort of congregate there, and it's not creating any problem for any brick and mortar, whatever. I'm just sort of thinking out loud. And for the future food truck owners, what was the podcast again?
It's called Food Truck Training.
Food Truck Training Podcast. I'm sure you can find it on all of the podcast platforms. And the person who produced that also has a book. Tell the listeners.
It's called Food Truck 101.
Food Truck 101.
Yeah, by Bill Moore is his name.
Oh, Bill Moore's. Okay. Yep. Mike Hensley of Project Smashburger. How do people find you?
The best way is going to be our social media. We use Facebook and Instagram. Typically, everything will be posted on both. Facebook is the most commonly used around here, so that one gets the most traction with interactions from guests and those sort of things.
So Facebook and Instagram. Mike of Project Smashburger, anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, we're just chasing a dream. Everybody's asking, why'd you quit a 25-year corporate job to do this? And we're really active in our faith and within our church, and we feel like the Lord has made a way to pursue a dream, and we're just chasing after that. And we like serving food and loving people, so this is a good avenue to do it.
Well, I'm so glad you came in today. This is fantastic. I love your whole attitude and approach to the business. Follow him, folks. I mean, this is a good place. This is a good place. Project Smashburger. Okay, coming up after the break, we have back with us Sophia Edens. She is the Content Food Critic, and we're going to be talking about some of the places around the Grand Strand that she has been critiquing. And welcome back to Talking About Food. And as promised before the break, we have the lovely and brilliant Sophia Edens. She's the owner of the page, The Content Food Critic. And that last word there, critic, I want to talk to her about that a little bit later on. So Sophia, welcome back to Talking About Food.
It's always nice to be here with you.
And I love having you because I don't know any other person that likes talking about food as much as I do. We just had lunch for an hour and a half and could have talked about a lot of different things. We talked about a lot of different things, but a lot of different things about food. Yeah. So since you've been on, I'm sure there's been a number of places that you discovered. So tell the 2 million listeners about some of the restaurants you discovered.
So I finally got a chance to go to Rivertown Bistro.
Heard a lot about Rivertown.
Oh, yes. My boyfriend and we went for Valentine's Day, and it was absolutely spectacular.
Who paid? You split it.
Well, I give him my credit card. No, I'm kidding.
No, I'm kidding too. Okay, go ahead. I don't want to get anybody in trouble here.
The atmosphere was really cool. When you step into the restaurant, you didn't expect it to be so large. There's 2 floors to it, and we were sat upstairs in a private dining area.
How would you explain the decor?
Woodsy,
very
warm,
earthy,
yeah. Very warm.
Comfortable.
There's a giant statue. I think it's of a deer. I saw it on the way out. I had gotten a little drunk that night.
Good.
But it's got cool tones, but very warm and very inviting.
Yeah. So you feel comfortable when you
Absolutely.
go in there.
I feel like a family could be there.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
So I've panned over the menu. Obviously, they had a special Valentine's Day menu, but I was really more interested in trying their specialty menu since that's what they offer all the time.
And is that what you did?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, yeah, you have to. That's great.
Absolutely. So obviously, we started off with cocktails first. Their bar is amazing. Whoever is running their bar does a fantastic job because our old fashioned was amazing. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Was very impressed. And that seems to be hard to do around here with the old fashioned. I'm very particular with that one. But I panned over their menu. I got a little nervous because I saw the variety and how eclectic their dishes were.
And why does that make you nervous?
I feel like having a menu that has a lot going on makes it a little bit of a challenge to make the dish perfect. Mm-hmm. Too much going on can cause a lot of issues, I think. Yeah.
I'll never forget, some of the things that, when you're going to school, I'll speak for myself, 100 years ago, certain things just stick with you. And I'll never forget the chef instructor said, if you can do 10 dishes really well, you can open a restaurant. Mm-hmm. And when I opened up Flame Pizzeria in Los Angeles, I created the menu. Wasn't even thinking about it, really. I just wanted things on there that I knew that I felt comfortable with and felt confident about. When I got done with it, I looked and there was 10 items on the menu. So there is some truth to that, I think. But anyway, go ahead. So you were concerned that the menu would be like a deli menu.
I was concerned that there was a lot of variety of different cuisines as far as fusion. Mm-hmm. I saw a lot of French-inspired, like duck and Italian dishes, Asian-inspired, and also like a Southern twist on it all.
So there was a Southern twist.
Yes.
Yeah. So would you say that it worked?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I was very impressed. And there was so much on the menu I wanted to try. So I made sure to order an appetizer of kind of an entree that I was wanting. I wanted the beef short rib entree, but I decided on the appetizer. Oh my God. It was fall off. Like the meat was just so tender. Yeah. It was so good. It was right on top of a giant portobello mushroom. Oh, wow. It was so incredible. Yeah. So incredible.
That's cool. I mean, and just by what you've told me already, it's, the decor was woodsy, inviting, warm, and they do this short rib on top of a mushroom. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It works. I mean, it's thick. It's very, very flavorful.
Yeah. Rich, tender.
Yes. Yeah. And it had this gorgeous cheese sauce on the top of it. It was a Clemson blue cheese cream, but it tasted very similar to, I want to say there must have been some Parmesan in there because it tasted very similar to what I make at home for an Alfredo. Mm. So it was just very rich and very, very
So you lost
nice.
Me there.
The Alfredo?
No, on the cheese.
On the cheese.
I can't visualize that, but if you tell me it's good, I believe you.
It was a little drizzle of it. It was more like a for presentation. Yeah. But the way it complemented the portobello was really good.
Right. Now, it makes sense now.
Yeah. What I found was interesting that where there was a I guess in the Southern culture, it's called a chow chow. It's kind of a pickled relish type. And I had never had that before. So it was good, surprisingly good, but I weirdly felt the dish didn't need it.
That was that was on the short rib dish as well?
Yes, it was the beef short rib portobello appetizer.
I said to a chef recently, was it I can't remember, but I'll just say this. For me personally, the last thing I wanted people to say about a dish after they tasted it that I had prepared was, "That's interesting." Usually means they didn't like it. So what else did you have? And by the way, like I said, you and I just got done eating lunch.
Oh yeah.
And just by you explaining that short ribs, I'm already hungry again. Go ahead.
So my boyfriend decided to stick with a classic. He usually gets a burger. I had been also panning the appetizer section for their Low Country spring rolls. I heard they're award winning. And I was like, please get this burger. It was voted winner of the Conway Burger of the Week for 2024. You have to get it. So he got the Low Country spring roll burger. And that was where you see that real heavy, intense Southern fusion with Asian. It had Monterey Jack cheese, but also these crispy wonton strips in a chicken tasso patty. It was very intricate. And inside the patty was filled with cheese.
Oh, wow.
But it was really flavorful. I'd get it again.
Yeah.
I can understand why it won so many awards.
Wow. Did he like it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was very shocked that he liked it. But he loved it. He was like, I hope they have DoorDash because I want this burger every night.
So the patty had cheese in it. What kind of cheese?
I believe Monterey Jack.
Monterey Jack. You said that. And then it was on top of the meat that had the strips?
Yes. On top of the meat was like wonton strips.
And then the bun on top of that?
Yes.
Wow.
With like a honey Dijon sauce as well.
Yeah. Well, sounds good. What else?
Then I decided, just because there was so much I wanted to try, I've already kind of overexerted my taste buds with Italian food. So when I saw the French inspired, I was really like, oh, I could go for duck. But then I saw the yuzu miso glazed salmon on the menu and bok choy. And I've been really trying to dive into the Asian culture as far as cooking. So I really wanted to see how they used bok choy in a dish. And this was insane. I was really, really hands down pleasantly surprised, and it was my favorite dish of the night. It was kind of hard to pick between the beef short rib and the glazed salmon, but it was just sweet and tangy and very umami. And it was just amazing on a bed of pasta. On
a bed of Italian pasta? Okay.
And that's, I guess, where that fusion comes in.
Right.
You get these mixed styles, but the way they incorporated the bok choy was really well done. I'm feeling confident attacking a meal at home now.
So you had the short ribs,
mm-hmm.
the burger,
mm-hmm.
this noodle dish.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
No.
Yeah,
I left there really, really happy. We took home leftovers I took the leftovers of the salmon pasta dish, and it was great the next day too.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So I'm assuming that it was decently priced. I mean, you don't have to say exactly what it was, but you were comfortable with it?
It was comfortable for going out for a meal on a date. It was very comfortable for that.
Yeah. So what about some other places? Any other cool finds?
I typically see myself visiting the same place multiple times.
Why is that? Yeah, I think I know the answer because I think you mentioned it once before when you were on the show.
I really like to find consistency, but I also like the comfort in my local businesses. I like being, I like having my go-to meal at a local spot if I'm just needing a quick lunch. So I stopped into Sweet Girls Bakery a lot for breakfast and lunch.
Tell us about that place.
It's owned by Carrie and Vicky. They came down here from PA. They opened up a bakery, Sweet Girls, in PA, and then moved down here and opened up this one in North Myrtle. And I just love it. I feel at home. The meals are cheap. Like, cheap isn't affordable, but they're delicious. I leave there full, and it's quick and easy lunch for the day. And then I take home a little sweet treat.
What are your favorite items there?
I just recently got the Texas bacon barbecue burger. It was like $11. Anywhere else, it would be probably $16
easily.
This thing was stacked. It was a burger patty with bacon, cheese, and an onion ring.
Yeah.
And then barbecue sauce. But the onion ring, it was just so good.
Yeah, you obviously didn't hear yet because it's not out, but the guest that was on right before you owns Project Smashburger, a food truck.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, and it's good. And I was mentioning that, I don't want to embarrass you, but I was mentioning the fact that when I try a burger for the first time at a place, I don't want all that stuff on it. I want to be able to taste the burgers.
The burger.
So had you tasted that burger before?
No,
But
usually I get their Reuben. Their Reuben's definitely my favorite.
Oh, yeah. What else?
Their skillets. I like the Philly cheesesteak skillet for breakfast with potatoes.
Okay.
And,
Yeah. Oh, man.
Just cheesy goodness. And then I'll leave there with a blueberry crumble. So Vicky cooks.
What is that? What's the consistency of that crumble?
Very moist. I like to heat it up in the microwave.
But
when
is
I
it
get
more
home.
of a like a muffin texture or like a
cake,
like a cobbler? Oh, like a cake.
more like a cake consistency.
Yeah.
It's very thick. It's huge. You
Yeah.
can definitely share it. So that's always
Real
worth it for me.
Heavy, but moist, but heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
nice.
good.
Oh man, you're killing me. You're killing me. What can you name some of the other baked goods there? Because I think you were telling
they
me
have this amazing fudge brownie chocolate cupcake. Oh, it is to die for.
Oh boy.
They have various pastries. Carrie, who's the baker, is so talented. She just told me she just bought one of those printers so she can start helping local businesses for catering events.
Mm-hmm.
So she'll be able to print their logo on a cookie. It's
wow.
really, really cool.
Yeah. But the product has to be good first. And you say
it's
that
definitely
you
good.
say that you were telling me before the show started that one of the owners does the cooking, the other one does the pastry.
Yes.
So which is which?
Vicky is on the grill.
Mm-hmm.
She's really talented. She's also just really cool.
So she would have come up with that burger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She came up with the burger, and then Carrie does all the baking.
Yeah. What are can you name some of the other baked items? Because I'm not
They
suffering
do custom
enough.
cakes.
Yeah.
So if people are calling in needing orders for cakes or cookies, brownies, whatever you might need for a birthday party or like a themed party, they'll go ahead and do it for you.
But what are some of the things that they have there that you can walk in and buy?
Muffins, cupcakes, cookies, croissants. It's a lot of items.
Yeah.
Their baked goods section is huge.
Yeah, I could spend all day there just doing that. Be like 400 pounds. We can touch on this if you like, or if you don't like, we don't have to. But I think you're making a mistake by going to a restaurant 3 times.
You really think so?
Yeah, because I think with what you're doing, and you're excellent at it. I wouldn't say that if you weren't. I think you could probably see more places. Well, first of all, why do you do that? Explain to the listeners why. You said before consistency, and I understand. I think the best compliment I ever got in my restaurant was, he was a general manager of a Ruth Chris Steakhouse. He said, I love coming to your restaurant because it's consistent, and I know I get a hankering for your pizzas and your Caesar salad, and I know it's going to be the same all the time. And that was one of the best compliments I ever got. And so I appreciate that part of it. But why else? And I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that you're so thorough that I know that the listeners and the readers, I could be wrong, might be interested in you talking about more places if you didn't have to go there 3 times.
I really like taking the time to get to know these people, but also I try to stay a little bit in the background before that connection happens, because I'd like to see how their restaurant operates on random occasions.
Organically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge key takeaway that I've learned from these professional food critics.
Yeah.
LA and New York is so different compared to Myrtle Beach as far as
They're brutal.
yes.
Yeah. They are brutal.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I want to make sure that if I have to be brutal, if that moment comes, that I am being as honest as I possibly can when that moment arises. A fluke could have happened. You never know. So I always like to try again. It's very rare. It's weird the way I kind of base my decisions to visit places.
Well, I'm going to interrupt because you won me over on that. You really did win me over. That
Really?
makes absolute perfect sense. And as an restaurant owner, I wish that people that gave me poor reviews, thank God there were only a handful, but even that handful, I wish they would have given me 2 more tries. So that's a great thing. That's pretty noble what you do. I don't know how the hell you afford it.
I know.
It is expensive.
But I try to encourage it as much as possible. I really do, because it's important.
Yeah.
So there's this place in North Myrtle that I frequently visit. Absolutely love the place. I stop in and get lunch there some days, dinner.
And this is in reference to why you go to some place a couple times.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So this place I go to multiple times, just driving through North Myrtle, stop in and have lunch. And I'm frequently in Facebook groups. So I saw somebody ask for a certain menu item, and I write down my favorite restaurant that I go to. And it was just a small little place on the road in like a shopping center. And a day or 2 later, they come back and angrily post in this Facebook group, whoever recommended this restaurant, I don't know why you recommended it, because da-da-da-da-da, and they just list off these harsh critiques. And I'm just sitting here thinking, this is exactly why I visit places multiple times.
That makes perfect sense.
Because this person has only had one experience here. Something could have been awry that day. And you just never know with these businesses. But it was the first time I had actually been alarmed at recommending a place.
Why were you alarmed?
I felt like maybe I did a disservice by not being so honest in my review. I started second guessing my review. But even after I had written my review and posted it, it's not like I stopped going to this place.
Yeah, I think you're being way too hard on yourself. You do what you do because you're experienced in the food world. And if other people don't agree with you, oh well, that's just the way it is. I want to see you keep, doing your commentaries and your writings on the food scene in the Grand Strand, because I believe you know what you're doing. So whether somebody said that they didn't agree with me, a layperson said, no, I went to that restaurant, I could care less. I'm just trying to, and as you are, trying to enlighten some of the locals here that don't have the ability to go out and eat as much as you or I do.
It's really important. I mean, my negative reviews get the most engagement, and I it's not like I'm proud of that. People like drama, and I'm not afraid of being honest, but I always try to seek more. And if it turns out to be
what
negative,
do you do?
then
What happens? And I'm assuming it's happened before, that you give them the 3-try test, and after the 3rd try, you're liking it as little as you did the first try. What do you write about?
it's really only happened once as far as written and published review.
Mm-hmm.
Other experiences that I've written about, I feel I definitely could have elaborated more. There are moments where you're close with a business owner and you don't want to put their business down. You have these business relationships to kind of you're responsible for, and you want to be respectful, but at the same time, I have a duty to my audience, which is to be as honest as possible. And I feel like when I recommended this business to somebody and they came back to me with what they said, I had deeply regretted not putting more honesty in the review.
Yeah, it's a tough one. The other thing is, this area that we live in is very small, and I want people to like me. I'll be perfectly honest. You know, if I go in, you know, tearing a place apart, there's a good chance that 100 people aren't going to want to talk to me anymore. So, do you feel the same way?
It's not that I really want people to like me. It's that words have weight.
Yeah.
And I want to be very particular in the words that I use, especially when that comes to new businesses.
Yeah.
And small businesses. But when it comes to, now this is where it gets interesting, when it comes to those tourist tailored restaurants, that's where I weirdly feel like I can be more honest.
Yeah, no, I have no patience for that.
And now it's because I'm really focusing on finding those special places that I think are really worth talking about and really worth highlighting. Because too often around here, I see the tourist locations get put on a pedestal, and the ones that are deserving of being talked about are far back.
Right. My motivation is to open up the food industry for the listeners so they have places that they can go to or where they could steer away from.
Mm-hmm.
So are we not doing our due diligence if we constantly avoid talking about what we didn't like?
I hate the feeling I get when I write a negative review.
Sometimes it annoys the crap out of me that chefs or restaurants are getting such critical acclaim when they're not that good.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So the mom and pop places, I don't have difficulty staying on a positive track with them. In other words, looking beyond some of the poor idiosyncrasies of the place. 'Cause,
absolutely.
Once you move above the mom and pop, the middle tier restaurants, and you enter that fine dining arena, I think then the gloves are off when it comes to fine dining. When it comes to fine dining, I feel like the chef / owner, whatever, has moved into the category that says we are special.
Absolutely.
Well, if you're special, get ready.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to take some critique. What constitutes fine dining to you?
A very well-educated chef, a specialty curated menu, very limited items, but something they are an expert in. I want the same dish every time I show up. I want expertise. I want locally sourced ingredients. And I want a giant plate of food.
Yeah, well, up until the last example, I look at fine dining as the experience of all experiences in dining in general. And that is every night is like a Broadway show. You're rehearsing and, you open the door. It's like the curtain going up and everything has to be firing on all cylinders. But fine dining takes it to the next level from the decor and how specific they pay attention to detail, the service, the wine choices, the knowledge of wine pairing to the dish, everything that you had said earlier, and service being of the utmost. A great server doesn't just bring your meal in the proper amount of time. It doesn't just ask you, how did you enjoy your dinner? They have this sixth sense as to when to approach the table and when not to. And I experienced that. I brought up Perone's. The server that we had there, and it was probably about a year ago we were there, he was on point. He knew the menu inside and out. You ask him a question, he knew the minute questions about things, and he knew the answers to them. But he also knew when to approach the table and when to stay away. And I hope all the listeners will get to experience this someday. It's almost as though they're hovering without you knowing it. And all you do is you turn your head a certain way to look for the server, and they're there. That is only the service part of it. And then the food arrives, and the server places the dish in front of you. And as you look at it, it's very, very impressive, but at the same time, subtle. And as you look at the way the chef composed the plate, you realize how much thought went into where each item was placed on the plate. And then as you begin to eat, you then also realize how beautifully the flavors blend together. And you start to realize why the chef combined those specific ingredients for that specific dish. And then the finale, the dessert arrives. And the server places it before you, and it is visually gorgeous. The composition of the plate is perfect. It's not a Jackson Pollock painting. It's very pleasing to the eye. It's not over-garnished. And as you begin to eat the dessert, once again, the flavors blend so well, you think that they were born together. Yeah. And as you leave the restaurant, the curtain comes down, and you realized you'd just seen one of the best shows around. In a well-run fine dining establishment, attention is paid to every detail in that restaurant. And when it works, it's just magical.
That is immaculate. I love the way you just described that. I'll have to check out Perrone's.
Yeah. I wanted Chef Stephen Perrone on the show, but nobody's returned my phone call, so oh well.
You've got a really cool show. Feel like it's what I've been looking for as comparable to what I want my blog to be, and that status. You really elevate the scene.
I hope so. I do. I hope so, because like I said, I want the folks to know what's out there. And
nothing more interesting than listening to a chef talk.
Yeah, well, from your lips to God's ears. But I want as many fine dining chefs to come on the show to explain to some of the locals that you don't have to be intimidated to go into a fine dining restaurant. You can go sit at the bar, have a couple of appetizers.
Absolutely.
Talk to the bartenders, because bartenders in fine, they love talking about the drinks and the appetizers and stuff. So the brilliant Sophia Edens of the Content Food Critic. Anything else you want to hit on?
Yeah. If I might ask you a few questions, sure. I noticed in your episodes, you kind of talk about these trends that you've seen in LA, whether that's from microgreens to sushi. You've seen these trends before 15 years ago in LA. What should we expect to see in the future?
Well, it's a good question. You did say microgreens, because they used to. There was a style that came out, I think it was in the 80s in Los Angeles, called California Nouveau, which was French style, but real light, healthy. So they started making sauces instead of, using roux, flour and butter thickeners. They just did reductions.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, reductions became real big. They were reducing
compotes,
just about. Yeah,
reductions,
that's exactly right. And the portions were minute, no fat, not just a little bit of fat. I mean, at that point, they didn't even know that there were fats that were good for you, like, olive oil, that kind of thing. So it was no fat at that time. So it was a very low calorie. And they just seemed to add microgreens to everything. I guess they just thought that it elevated the visual of the dish. But
I'm glad that you brought up the oils and the fats. I feel like it's really making a comeback right now as far as tallow. I feel like that's now hitting to be a larger trend. People are really more focused on their health as they were, but it seems like it's in a different way this time.
Yeah, and also I've heard a lot of talk about these, quote, seed oils that they're getting away from. And, if that is scientifically proven, all power to them. But I've been around long enough to see that stuff come and go. Mm-hmm. I just stated that, California Nouveau cuisine, and not just California. I mean, it was a national, maybe even international thing, that we went through a no-fat craze. No fat. There were, I mean, even packaged products like desserts, cookies, cakes, that kind of thing. It got so big that an entire aisle of the supermarket was non-fat until they discovered that, guess what? Some fats are actually good for you. So it wouldn't surprise me if this new fad of no seed oils turns around. But you know what? Maybe not. Maybe it is good for people. But yeah, the microgreens thing. And I'm starting to see that a lot. As a matter of fact, I saw a chef online the other day who had posted a number of local guy, a number of pictures that was just like inundated with microgreens, no matter where you look. So yeah, that.
I'm actually okay with the trend. I think it adds a lot of flavor.
No, I don't disagree with you. But you asked me, what do I see coming through? And with anything, good or bad, you can overdo it.
Absolutely.
And that's what I thought about those particular photos.
Oh,
Food trucks going to be, they're just starting. I've had 3 of them on the show, all great. Black Cat Kitchen, the Nosh Pit, and just right before you came on, we had Project Smashburger. Yeah, though that's going to be a big trend if it follows. Sushi, I notice, is getting bigger. It's been here a while, but it's getting.
I think bubble tea and boba tapioca.
Yeah. I like to hear how chefs get creative with stuff compared to what the way they do it in a big city. Not that one is better than the other. It's just cool that, I live in the South now. So the local chefs, what are they going to do with these new trends that come in? Kind of interesting. Look forward to it. Okay, that's going to wrap it up for today. Sophia Edens, you got to follow her, the Content Food Critic. She is amazing. I love reading her stuff. She's got an eye for it, folks. She knows what's going on. And what I love about her approach, nothing's off the table. It's mom and pop here. It can be fine dining restaurants, but she's going to tell you the truth. And she's going to take her time with it. She's not one of these people in the food critique world that runs into a place, takes a bite of something and says, yeah, I like it or not. No, she puts the work in. Sophia Edens, Content Food Critic, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you.
Can't wait for you to come back. Okay, folks, so the lovely and talented Content Food Critic told us all about Rivertown Bistro, so you all got to check that out. Sounds terrific. She also talked about Sweet Girls Bakery in North Myrtle Beach, a cool little breakfast and lunch place. They have terrific pastries there and great breakfast and lunch dishes. Don't forget, Project Smashburger was on earlier. And you can follow them on Facebook. Make sure you do because they're good. Real quickly, I had Cafe Vincenzo's pizza. They're in Myrtle Beach. My wife and I were at our dear friends Liz Calloway and her husband Javier. It was Javier's birthday, and they had a ton of takeout Cafe Vincenzo's pizzas. And though I won't comment too much on it today because I want to go back and have it there at their restaurant, but even a bit cold, it was good. So we're gonna check them out. Next week, I have the chef owner of, I think I'm saying this correctly, Leve Bakery in Conway. This cool it's in an industrial park area. I love that kind of stuff. Expert bread maker. He's going to be on the show next week. And also the owner of the site, The Scoop in Myrtle Beach, Flavio, his name is, and he's going to be in here. And although he talks about all types of things happening in Myrtle Beach, you know us here, we're going to be strictly talking about food. Folks, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Tune in next week, and always remember, you are your family's private chef. Thanks for listening.